Well, welcome back to the Patient Magnet podcast. I am joined today by two of my very, very good friends, Christin Trujillo and Jessica Nunn. They own an incredible business called Maven. They're like fractional chief financial officers of your business, fractional CFOs, where they help you come in and not only look at the existing finances, but plan for the future. It's very often that when you work with somebody who does money in your business, it's always pretty retroactive. They look at what has happened, and a CFO helps you plan for what should happen next. And they've been great partners of ours for a long time and have helped our business significantly because all we ever did was look at what happened with finances and didn't look at what we needed to do next. And so I wanted to invite them onto the podcast to talk about a very exciting announcement that they have, as well as just how should you budget for your marketing effort when you are building your clinic. I'll proactively apologize for my stuffy nose. I have a little bit of a cold that's been going around, and I got tox yesterday from the Orlando Injector, and we can't avoid bruises. You'll see a little mark if you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube. But girls, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves to the audience?
Because I love the way you just said that, and I think that's going to be the new elevator pitch when you have someone doing the money in your practice. So that's what we're doing. We're doing the money, and that's what I want to say from now on.
We do the money.
We're doing the money. We're doing the money. I'm Jessica, and I started Maven Financial here with Christin, as you know, to do the money. So we're doing the money. We've been doing the money for a while, and we help practices understand where they've been and make out a roadmap for the future, as we're going to talk about.
I don't think that I can add too much to that. So, we are chief financial officers in a fractional level. So whenever practices are like, hey, I've got a bookkeeper, I have a CPA, but they aren't really advising me about what to do in the business, that's where we come in. So that's exactly what we do. And you really hit all the nails on the head. But my name is Christin Trujillo, and yeah.
Woo! And I'm fired up to have you two here. Okay, so I know that we have a bit of an announcement of something that is happening.
Do we?
It will have already happened once this is launched, but we're filming this prior. Yes, come on, you can tell us what's happening. You're launching.
Okay.
Come on.
We kind of, sort of, absolutely wrote a book. And it is called Med Spa Profitability, and it is available on Amazon, or you can go to medspaprofitability.com and get a copy. But we're really excited about it. We've poured so much into it. Over the last several years, we've been working with, really hundreds of aesthetic practices, and not just advising them on the business, but really learning from them, what are they doing to be super profitable? So in this book, there's absolutely no gatekeeping. We pulled back all of the I don't know, the blankets or the blinds or the blindfolds and all the things. And we're truly sharing, well, what makes these practices super profitable? And we're kind of walking through our process in the same way. So, all the things that you mentioned about, well, I'm not just looking at my business retroactively. I need to be planning about what I want this business to do. So what is your vision? What are your goals? How are you going to bring this to fruition? So we're really getting into all of those different steps and how you can do this in your business so you can take these learnings and truly apply it. Because if you want to be more profitable, there's all of these secrets and good insights inside this book.
And I think, too, another thing that was important to us was when we work with clients, one thing we hear a lot is, you've just taught me so much about business. And we hear probably every day of my life, man, they just don't teach this financial stuff in medical school, nursing school, whatever it is, right? So, a lot of our role in client and practice's life is to teach them how the money works. How does the P&L work? What is a balance sheet? Why do I look at it? Why do I care? Where's my money going? Why is it confusing? Why do I hate accounting? And you do. Let's just be honest, right? You do.
I know I do.
Yeah.
We don't even like math, so yeah, we get it.
It's a secret, yeah. So we really walk through, it's basically like, couple of chapters of here's how to be a CPA. Let's look at your P&L. What do these terms mean? Why do you care? What should it be? Where should your money be going? Let's look at a balance sheet. What are these things? Why do I care? What is my money doing? So that you can have that baseline foundation that so many of you guys are saying you're not getting in school, which I totally understand.
Yeah, 100%. Even from my own example, I was fortunate to receive a little bit of a pre-copy of the book, a handful of chapters, and within reading whatever it was, it's 8 pages or something like that. I what's it called, the daily stand up, or the daily, what do you call that, where you're looking at all your numbers that you spent and all the money that went in and out.
Daily
Yeah, the
close.
daily close.
Your daily close. Okay, with your clinic, you're doing a daily close, and I think with a clinic, it probably, with our business, maybe it makes sense to do it a little less than daily, or a little more than like maybe weekly or something like that, because we don't have the same type of business. But I started reading that section, and I was like, we need to be doing this. And I immediately had our bookkeepers spit out how much money we've spent so far this month and how much money we've made so far this month. And I went through line by line by line, and I cut probably 15 subscriptions. I think I saved us like $14,000 a year just by doing that for the first time, where I was like, I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of this. It was so eye-opening. And I told my wife, I was like, Monica, we have to do this on a weekly basis. Go through all the money that happened in our business and our life. She loved it. She loved it. She was like, oh, she's like, Jared, I've been saying that forever. I was like, yeah, you probably have. You're probably right. But immediately it saved us a ton of money. Also, I mean, what you guys do, and the book talks about this as well. I'll give a little shout out to the Maven team, but for example, we leverage Maven services for our business, and I was thinking about making a hire last week, and I text Haley, our account manager, and I was like, hey, do we have enough margin to hire a new person right now? And she was like, she took a few minutes, and then she looks at our books or our numbers, and she was like, hey, Jared, you're totally good. If you want to make a hire and you need to, fill a position or add whatever, you guys are totally good to do that. And I sent her like the specs for the job. But having something like that, having a team member like that on standby, that can let you know what you can do for your business, where oftentimes you're just like, oh, I think this will help, is critical. Because other times they've said, oh, I don't know if you need to do that yet. You might be good with this team.
It's cool. And what we say a lot is like, instead of you sitting there and just thinking about, can I afford it? Can I afford it? Can I afford it? Can I afford it? And you're using your brain energy on that decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can clear that up really quick so that you can spend that brain energy instead saying, who should I hire? What should they do?
Right.
How do I onboard them? How do I train them? Right. And that, we want to narrow down. You guys got 1,000 things going on. Let us take some of that off your plate so that you can really focus on what's important.
I would say, at the end of the day, it's your business, and you know what you need to do, and you're working in it every day. But truly, we're trying to educate you. Like, let's run the scenarios. Can you do this? And let's show you what it looks like if we add this extra payroll, or if we buy that device, or if we buy a new website, or if we increase our increase our marketing so we can increase our revenue. Like, these are the effects of that. We really want to educate you to make a better business decision and have that confidence and empowerment that, hey, I'm not just guessing at this. I know that if I do this, this is going to be the outcome, right?
So powerful. Now, what are maybe 2 or 3 big pitfalls that you see med spa owners falling into? You'll look at their books and you'll say, man, this is tried and true for most people. You're paying too much for this. I can't believe you bought a device this soon. I can't believe you hired this many people. Whatever the pitfall is, what are some of the common ones that you see that maybe people that are listening who are planning their clinics can say, ooh, I will avoid that at all costs?
Ooh, I'll take this one. Okay.
I got a story. So
Okay. So I mean, there are so many things. For starters, if you're really struggling with profitability, and you're going to love this one, it's a revenue problem 9 times out of 10. There are expense categories that can be too much, and there's usually something wrong with some of those, just depending on what it is. Like cost of goods sold, if your costs are too high, you're either sitting on too much inventory, your prices are inappropriate, you are not being mindful about what you're spending. Maybe your service mix is a little off, but there could be a couple of different things. It could be all of those things, and we just have to find that, and we got to fix that. If your payroll is too high, it could be inappropriate compensation structures. It could be that your providers are not producing enough to cover the payroll costs. Usually that is the case. more than anything. But that all goes back to revenue. If your providers are not producing enough, you need to increase your revenue. Well, how do you increase your revenue? You need to be looking at your revenue. You need to be analyzing what's happening. Where's the revenue coming from? Who is producing it? What are the opportunities? What levers should I be pulling? And is there opportunity to add more marketing? I'll tell you, usually I'm not looking at the books and seeing that, oh, we got to cut marketing. We need to actually add marketing, or what you're spending on marketing is not driving a good ROI. Like, let's be really strategic here. Let's not just
Yeah.
throw money.
What do
Like,
you when you're looking at marketing, since this is a marketing podcast, when you're looking at that spend, and that being a major pitfall for people, what types of percentages are you looking for, and what types of ROI are you looking for on that spend?
you want to take that one?
It kind of depends, right? Are you a practice that's already so full you don't know what to do with yourself, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
booked out, booked out. Well, obviously, unless your plan is to add more providers, then you don't need to spend as much as someone who is trying to grow, fill providers, who's just
Yeah.
starting out. So really the lower end of the range, I mean, you guys know probably even better than me, but 3 to 5% maybe on the low end, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
less. But then if you're just starting out, it's going to be probably what can you afford?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
10%, 8%, maybe even more.
Yeah.
Startups, one of the biggest problems that we see is not starting marketing soon enough, right? So you
Yeah.
open your doors. Do you have any patience? What's going on? Did you start marketing 6 months ago? Did you start, getting the word out that you existed? So we really have to start soon,
Yeah.
earlier than I think most people think.
Yeah.
Um,
And your money should go like butts in seats. That's like my first thing is like, if you're a brand new business, we need butts in seats. Whatever
yeah.
you got to do, however scrappy you got to be, how do we get those people to walk through the door in the first place?
It is interesting when we're building out budgets and talking to existing practices, new practices, and we say, okay, look, it does, once we look through everything and we're looking at your KPIs and we're making that budget for next year, do you see how beautiful the financial picture becomes when we increase the revenue? Yeah, I really see it. Wow, it makes all of our costs make sense. We're taking home more
Yeah.
money than ever before. And it's easy for us to say, just bring in more money. Like, how hard is it, right?
Just
But
make more money. They're like, that's my problem. That's what
and we're
I
done.
want
We're
them
done.
to.
Yeah. No, but then when we can show that, hey, if you spend double or triple in marketing, and I'm not just saying this because we're on a podcast. We literally did this a couple of weeks ago with a client.
Mhm.
Look, I'm telling you to spend double or triple. I'm budgeting it out for you. And
Yeah.
if the result is as follows, look how much more is hitting the bottom line. And they're
Mhm.
surprised to hear, oh my gosh, you're saying that I should go from 12,000 a year to 40,000 a year. I am saying that. Because if it has the result that typically you've had when you've spent money on marketing, this is what your checking account looks like,
Yeah.
right? So
That's such a critical point too. It's like when it is producing, double down and put more. Like once you have the okay, great. If I invest $1, I make $4. Then
right.
just dump money into the funnel. If you're like, great, I'm putting $1 in, I'm getting 4 to 7 out. Sick, great. Let's just pour a bunch in until our schedules are at a place that we want, and we can make more growth decisions. I think that's
Well,
such
we
a
do
great
talk
point.
in the book a lot about like, listen, don't just throw a bunch of money at marketing and be like, we'll see what happens, right?
I hope it works.
If your team is not ready, your phone's going to start ringing, and then what happens, right? Is the
Yeah.
experience terrible from the get-go? So we talk about a lot of that in the book and provide a lot of ways we wish conversations would go when patients call. Ways we wish conversations would go when patients come to your practice for the first time, so that you can, if you're going to spend $1 in marketing, let's let it result in money in your checking account from the patient
Yes.
paying you collecting from the service, charging the right fee, the whole cycle. So my story. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're not looking at, your practice and just saying, "Hey, go spend on marketing," just because we want you to spend on marketing. We're allowing the business financials and the KPIs to tell us that we need to spend on marketing. So we're looking at the KPIs. What is your utilization percentage? It's showing us very clearly that there is an opportunity, that there are not butts in the seats, in fact. And it's also not one of these things that you can turn off and turn on. Like, this is something, it's very competitive out there. If you've been in the medical spa, in the aesthetics industry, what have you, it is getting more competitive by the day, by the minute. There are more practices popping up. You are not the only one in your little geographical area anymore. You are fighting for these patients. Now, I do feel like more patients are emerging into the space and they're seeking out these things, but how are you going to get in front of them? And you definitely don't open your practice and they come. That does not happen. So, to Jessica's point, sometimes I will see 20 to 25% spend before we are generating that ROI, and then we taper that down.
Yeah.
But we do need to generate revenue so we can understand how am I going to generate revenue to cover the overhead and all of the other things, but I have to invest in marketing. It seems counterintuitive, but if you're not spending this, you are not going to have a thriving, profitable, successful business.
Yeah, it's so often that we don't really run ads for the most part for clients, but we consult for marketing, and people will say, oh, well, why aren't my ads producing anything for me? And I'm like, how much money are you spending per month on maybe they're running Facebook ads. How much money are you spending per month? They're like, oh, we're spending $300. And I was like, $300, you're throwing it in the trash. You're lighting it on fire. No one is seeing those. And they're like, well, how much should I spend? I'm like, $1,500 to $2,000 sometimes to get the right exposure for Facebook ads if you're going to run that channel. They're like, well, I can't afford that. And I was like, well, then you really should just turn it off entirely because you're just burning money. You should reinvest it into something else if you can't afford that. Because it's so often that people are so trepidatious. They're just so like, oh, trying to dip their toes in. Oh, we'll see if this works. And it's like, you can't, with some things at least, you can't just dip your toes in. You got to jump in and see if it works before you actually see the result. Now, one question for you. Will a device save someone's business? Will buying a really expensive device save someone's business and make them super profitable?
Oh, I love this question. So, oh, good gracious. There are strategies. There is a right time and a place to buy a device. If it's going to complement your other service offerings, if you want to drive additional revenue streams, but you need to be very strategic, very intentional about this. These reps come in and no hate on the reps. Like they probably do have this amazing product, but you don't buy it this is commonly said, if you buy it, it's going to rain money in your practice. That is absolutely not the case. You need to be educating the patients on this device. You need to make sure that it fits in with your service mix already, that it's complementing the other treatments and procedures that you're offering. And you need to make sure that you can afford it. So what is the cost of it? How are you going to pay for it? What are the consumables for it? How are you going to market this? How are you going to make sure that every single patient that you're doing a consultation with, you are comprehensively treatment planning and talking about the benefits to this? Because let me tell you, they are not Googling laser near me. They're probably Googling, the gateway drug, which is like Botox or Dysport or, wrinkle relaxers, maybe filler.
Yeah.
But they're
with lasers, they're Googling the problem that the laser solves. They're not Googling, oh, I want Jewel X services near me. They're Googling rosacea, melasma. How do I solve these things?
That is 100% accurate.
I like how you said, can you afford it? And, we get that a lot. How do we pay for it? Can we afford it? All of those questions. And I think that is just like with the hiring. That's one of the most stressful parts, is like, should I make this investment? Can I afford it? It's so much money. It's probably the first device you buy is the most money you've probably ever spent outside of your house, or maybe the build out or the startup. So, it's a big decision. And how do we do the right thing?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, this is why I love Sciton. If I'm gonna talk proudly about any company, at least specifically, there's a rep in the Orlando area named Corey, who is stellar. Regularly, Corey will reach out to me and he will say, hey, there's this young clinic that really wants to get a Sciton because they know that, we have some of the best lasers in the world. And he goes, but their business is not in a place to support a device this hefty and a purchase this hefty. I want you, if you could, I'd love to introduce you to them so you can do some SEO and some marketing with them so that they can build their clinic to a space where we would make sense for them because we are not selling this device to them. It's not going to move. It's only going to put them in the ground. I get texts like that on a regular basis from him where people are trying to buy, but they're saying, no, you are not ready for this. Like your business is not in a place to support a $150,000 device, a $200,000 device, however expensive they are.
We love Corey.
How cool is that? I know. And I've found that with a lot of the Sciton people, they're very much like, they have this very measured, respectful approach to the clinic. They're not promising this thing's going to save your business, but they see that when a business is in a space to grow, they're like, this could rock for you. They want to partner. So I can't say a lot for the other device companies, but specifically Sciton, I'm very proud of them for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's go back to Med Spa Profitability, the book itself. I can verify, by the way, the no gatekeeping thing that you mentioned. So when I was reading it, I was like, man, they're just giving away the farm here. And what I can tell people too, like about the book and about Maven, is just that like Maven is building themselves to be partners in the industry, you know? So like they know how everyone's books works. They know like the amount of, what you say, hundreds of clinics that you guys have worked with. The data that you guys have available, the financial data that you guys have available is unbelievable for clinics. Now, what types of clinics do you think should be reading this book? If what are some incredible use cases where it's like, man, if you are struggling with this, you really need this book. If you are in this stage of your business, you should really read this book. Or if you have a pulse, you should read this book.
I think everyone should read it, but I would say that I think there's something for everybody, right? So if you, again, coming down to just the financial basics, accounting 101, if you're like, I've always wanted to know like how to look at my P&L and not get so frustrated or understand what's going on, it's going to cover that. If you want to understand if you should go from cash basis to accrual, or you even know what that means, it's going to talk about that. If you want to understand how to build a budget for your practice, it's going to talk about that. If you want to understand, like I said earlier, how the conversation should be going when patients come into your practice, we go into that. So we really cover, I mean, we're not authors by trade. We're talkers. We do a lot of talking in our life, but we're not writers or authors by trade. So this has been such a journey for us writing this book, but especially Kristen would wake up and be like, oh, tell them about this, right? So if it's something that we come across with our clients or something that we come across in our life, we're putting it in the book, right? And so it really, I would say, has something for everybody because of that. We go into growing and scaling. You want to add a location? You want to try to, make your practice not rely on your hands alone? We're going to talk about, in our opinion, the best way to do that. So again, if you're just starting out and you're like, I don't even know what a P&L is and I'm embarrassed to ever say it out loud, you don't have to. We're going to teach you. Or, hey, I have 2 locations and I'm thinking about getting into the 3rd and 4th. We're going to talk to you too.
I couldn't agree more. And, we really dive into, well, what are those key strategies to increase your revenue? What should you be looking at and analyzing so that you can do these things? And what are the strategies? How can I apply them? So we're not just talking at you and being like, well, this is what it is. Like, no, this is how you can implement it. And then what are the ways that you can be mindful of your expenses? And if there are opportunities, recognize those so you can fix those and you can truly drive more bottom line. So really something for everybody. It doesn't really matter if you're starting up or if you've had a practice for 20 years. There's something that maybe you don't know. You're going to learn something. Maybe it's going to be a refresher, but there are truly applicable tactics and tools within it.
I think good for office managers too, because we talk about if this expense is too high, this is what you do. How do you know if it's too high? If it's more than this, it's too high, right? Yeah. And then what do you do to fix it? So if you have office managers who are deeply involved, who are running practices, who are managing expenses, managing the team, managing revenue, managing the schedule, then I think they could get a lot out of it too.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful that you two came on. I'm so grateful that you wrote this book and that you are giving it to the industry. It is such an incredible tool that I think is going to add value to the space of aesthetic medicine because let's face it, private equity is coming in fast into the industry. And the more equipped we can make the average clinic owner, the more powerful they can be to compete in that kind of a space so that we don't lose that intentionality, that one-on-one nature of this industry. So I'm so grateful for both of you for coming on. Once again, everybody, this has been the Patient Magnet podcast. If you guys want to add more revenue to your business, you want to add more patients to your business, you can go to aestheticconversion.com and we can help you with your website or your SEO. Or if you want to learn about adding profit overall to your business, you can go to medspahprofitability.com.
Yes, that's where you can buy the book. And then, because you've hyped us up so much, if you want to see a really cute website, you go to mavenfp.com. Jared and his team just totally revamped it, gave it life. It is so good. So Jared uses us, but we rely so heavily on Jared. He has transformed our business as well.
That's
So we're
very
so
sweet of
grateful
you.
for you. Thank
That's
you.
very sweet. I love your new website. I think it's so cool and fresh. I think it's
Yes.
very fun. It's very fun. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and thank you, Jess and Kristen, for taking time to hop on. I'm so excited for you guys to announce this book. I feel like you've been working on it for so dang long. It's time. So thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
to
having
both of
us.
you. Yeah, and thanks to everyone for listening. Appreciate it. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.